On the cold streets of New York, 22-year-old Emma had nothing left except hope. She slept on park benches, survived on donated food, and dreamed of a better life. Meanwhile, 55-year-old billionaire Richard Hayes had everything money could buy, except love. When Richard suddenly married the homeless young woman everyone ignored, the world called him crazy. But what Emma did on their wedding night wasn't what anyone expected. Her shocking decision revealed a secret that changed both of their lives forever. Emma sat alone on a freezing park bench as snow slowly covered the ground around her. Her thin coat couldn't protect her from the bitter wind. She watched happy families pass by while holding a small photograph of her late mother. Hunger twisted inside her stomach, but the pain in her heart hurt even more. She whispered a promise that someday she would build a better life, no matter how impossible it seemed. Across the city, billionaire Richard Hayes stood inside his luxurious penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Expensive artwork decorated every wall, and priceless furniture filled every room. Yet the enormous apartment felt painfully empty. Since losing his wife years earlier, silence had become his closest companion. Despite his wealth and success, loneliness followed him everywhere. He often wondered why happiness seemed so much harder to buy than everything else in his life. The next morning, Emma searched trash bins behind restaurants for leftovers. Most people ignored her existence. Some looked away, while others judged her without knowing her story. She had once been a bright college student before medical bills destroyed her family's finances. Losing her mother and home happened within months. Standing in the cold alley, she fought back tears and reminded herself never to stop believing in miracles. Richard attended a charity event hosted by his foundation. Wealthy guests filled the ballroom wearing designer clothes and fake smiles. During his speech about helping the poor, he noticed Emma outside through a large window. Unlike everyone inside, she wasn't pretending to be someone else. Her tired eyes reflected genuine struggle. For some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about the young woman standing alone in the cold. After the event ended, Richard walked outside and approached Emma. Security guards looked surprised. Emma expected another lecture or rejection. Instead, Richard offered her a warm meal. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust him. Life had taught her that kindness often came with conditions. But something about his calm voice felt sincere. Reluctantly, she accepted the invitation and followed him to a nearby restaurant. Over dinner, Emma shared parts of her painful journey. Richard listened carefully without interrupting. Most people focused on her appearance or circumstances, but Richard genuinely cared about her story. For the first time in years, Emma felt heard. Richard admired her resilience and strength. Despite losing everything, she still carried hope. That quality impressed him more than any achievement he had ever seen. Weeks passed, and Richard continued helping Emma. He arranged temporary housing and encouraged her to rebuild her life. Their friendship grew stronger. Newspapers began noticing the unusual connection between the billionaire and the homeless woman. Critics accused Richard of seeking attention. Others claimed Emma was using him for money. Neither paid attention to the rumors. They knew the truth about their growing friendship. One evening, Richard invited Emma to walk through a quiet garden. As they talked beneath glowing lights, he admitted how lonely he had been for years. Emma listened with compassion. She realized that wealth hadn't protected him from heartbreak. In many ways, they both understood loss. Their lives seemed completely different, yet their pain created an unexpected bond neither had anticipated. Months later, Richard shocked everyone by proposing marriage. The media exploded with headlines. Friends questioned his decision. Business partners warned him about public embarrassment. Emma herself struggled to believe it was real. Richard wasn't offering rescue or charity. He genuinely loved her kindness, honesty, and courage. After careful thought and many emotional conversations, Emma accepted his proposal. The wedding became one of the year's biggest stories. Cameras followed every detail. Critics predicted disaster. Social media users mocked the age difference. Yet as Emma walked down the aisle, she ignored the noise. Richard looked at her with genuine affection. For the first time, both felt hopeful about the future. Together, they promised loyalty, respect, and honesty before family and friends. That evening, after the celebrations ended, Richard carried expectations about their first night as husband and wife. He imagined romantic conversations and shared dreams. Instead, Emma quietly asked if they could talk privately. Her serious expression immediately concerned him. Something important weighed heavily on her heart. Richard sat beside her, preparing himself for whatever she needed to say. Emma opened an old backpack she had carried for years. Inside were several worn notebooks, photographs, and documents. Richard looked confused. She explained that before meeting him, she had spent years helping homeless people whenever possible. Even while struggling herself, she shared food and comfort with others. Those notebooks contained names, stories, and dreams of people society had forgotten. Emma then revealed her wedding night decision. Instead of taking expensive gifts or enjoying luxury, she wanted to use a large portion of her new wealth to create shelters, job programs, and educational opportunities for homeless families. Richard stared at her in disbelief. He expected requests for jewelry, travel, or personal comfort. Instead, she was thinking about strangers still suffering on the streets. Tears filled Richard's eyes as Emma continued speaking. She explained that she never wanted anyone else to experience the loneliness she had endured. Money had changed her circumstances, but not her values. She believed true success came from lifting others. Her voice shook with emotion as she described children sleeping outdoors and parents struggling to survive. Richard was deeply moved. For several minutes, silence filled the room. Richard looked through the notebooks carefully. Every page contained stories, sketches, and plans. Emma had spent years imagining ways to help people despite having almost nothing herself. Richard realized she possessed something far more valuable than wealth, a heart devoted to others. Her compassion exceeded anything he had encountered in the business world. That night, Richard made a promise. Together, they would transform Emma's vision into reality. He agreed to fund the projects and dedicate resources from his foundation. Emma smiled through tears. The wedding night became not a celebration of luxury, but the beginning of a mission. Both understood they were starting something much larger than themselves. The following months brought intense work. Emma personally visited shelters, interviewed struggling families, and developed programs designed to create long-term change. Richard used his business experience to secure partnerships and funding. Reporters who once mocked their marriage began noticing the impact they were creating. Public opinion slowly started to change. One afternoon, Emma met a young girl living in a shelter. The child reminded her of herself years earlier. They talked for hours about dreams, fears, and hope. Before leaving, Emma promised the girl that difficult circumstances did not define her future. The encounter strengthened Emma's determination to continue helping others. As their projects expanded, thousands received assistance. Families found housing. Students earned scholarships. Parents gained employment opportunities. Communities began recovering. Emma often visited programs personally, ensuring every person felt respected. She believed dignity mattered as much as financial support. Her leadership inspired employees and volunteers alike. Richard watched Emma interact with people and felt immense pride. She never forgot where she came from. Despite living comfortably, she remained humble and compassionate. Her perspective changed Richard's understanding of success. For decades, he measured achievement through numbers and profits. Emma taught him that real wealth involved making meaningful differences in people's lives. One evening, Richard confessed something surprising. Meeting Emma had saved him emotionally. Before her arrival, he had lost purpose after years of grief. Helping others alongside her gave him renewed meaning. Emma smiled and reminded him that kindness often changes both the giver and receiver. Their partnership had transformed them equally. Years later, their organization became nationally recognized. Thousands benefited from housing programs and educational opportunities. Emma frequently spoke at events, sharing her journey from homelessness to leadership. Audiences admired her authenticity. She never portrayed herself as extraordinary. Instead, she emphasized resilience, compassion, and community support. During one speech, Emma displayed the same old notebooks from her wedding night. She explained how dreams written during difficult times eventually became reality. The audience stood and applauded. Many people cried as they listened to the stories behind each page. Those notebooks symbolized hope surviving even in darkness. Richard often reflected on the night Emma surprised him. Had she chosen luxury and comfort, their story would have been different. Instead, she chose service. That decision shaped their future and affected countless lives. He remained grateful for the unexpected lesson she brought into his world. Together, they visited the park bench where Emma once slept. The city had changed, but the memory remained vivid. Standing there, Emma remembered the loneliness and fear she once felt. Richard gently held her hand. Both understood how far life had brought them. Nearby, several families now lived in apartments supported by their programs. Children played safely while parents worked stable jobs. Seeing those smiling faces filled Emma with gratitude. The hardships she endured had gained purpose. Her pain had become a source of healing for others as the years passed. Their love deepened through shared service and mutual respect. They faced challenges together and celebrated victories together. Their relationship thrived because it was built on understanding rather than appearances. The criticism that once surrounded them gradually disappeared. One day, Emma received an award recognizing her humanitarian efforts. During her acceptance speech, she thanked Richard for believing in her when few others did. She also dedicated the award to every homeless person still searching for hope. The audience responded with a standing ovation. After the ceremony, Richard and Emma sat quietly watching the sunset. They reflected on the journey that began with a simple act of kindness outside a charity event. Neither could have predicted where that moment would lead. Yet both felt thankful for every step along the way. That Emma's wedding night decision shocked Richard because she asked for nothing for herself. Instead, she chose to help others who were still suffering. That selfless choice transformed a billionaire's life and changed countless futures. Their story became proof that true love is not measured by money, age, or status, but by compassion, purpose, and the willingness to lift others when they need it most. Red Heart.